So the sad invasion of Ukraine continues. Some significant reports have came out since my video from last night, and again I'm not going to go over everything that's came out because there's so much, but there's a few incidents that have hit the headlines that I did want to go over. If for whatever reason you don't know what's going on, go ahead and watch my video from yesterday where I give a short breakdown of why Russia is currently invading Ukraine. Now yesterday we went over one incident in where the Chernobyl power plant had been taken over by Russian troops after a firefight, but today there's a few more stories. We'll start this round of reports off then with an incident in where a Ukrainian soldier had actually blew himself up to stop a column of advancing Russian tanks passing through. According to sources, army generals hailed the sacrifice of Vitaly Volodymyrovich for halting a bunch of tanks storming in through Crimea. It's thought the explosion significantly slowed down the enemy, according to Ukrainian military, and Vitaly was said to have volunteered for the mission to rig the bridge, as it's a strategic pinch point linking Crimea to the mainland. However, when he saw tanks flying towards him, he didn't have enough time, so he detonated the bombs, destroying the bridge and sadly taking his own life. Another incident that has made the rounds is this one right here.
Москва. 200 метров, ракетный катер. Россия. Вот так вот мы тут и живем, блядь, на острове Змеином. Блядь! Сука!
Все. Я говорю, нахуй тоже надо.
На всякий случай.
A tiny island off the coast of Ukraine, dubbed Snake Island, was approached by a Russian warship at some point over the past 24 hours. It's thought that 13 Ukrainian military personnel had been there. When the warship approached the island, it told them to lay down their weapons and surrender to avoid bloodshed and unnecessary victims. To this, however, the Ukrainian soldiers told them to go and fuck themselves, and it's then thought that the strike began, killing all on the island. According to President Zelensky, roughly 137 people have been killed so far, with a further 316 wounded. According to British Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, he claims that Russia has lost more than 450 military personnel and is in fact behind on its scheduled timeline of invasion. That death toll, some sources say, however, is anywhere up to 3,000. Again, that is unconfirmed though.
Matthew, tell us what you're witnessing there.
Stop. Jim, we've come out of the centre of the Ukrainian capital, Kiev, and we are here at the Antonov airport, which is about 25 kilometres, 15 miles or so out of the centre. These troops you can see over here, stand up, Lewis. These troops you can see over here, they are Russian airborne forces. They have taken this airport. They've allowed us to come in and be with them as they defend the perimeter of this air base here, where helicopter-borne troops, these troops, were landed in the early hours of this morning to take and to form an air bridge to allow for more troops to come in. You can see these are Russian forces. You can tell they're Russian. I've spoken to them already. You can tell they're Russian. They've got that orange and black band to identify them as Russian forces. I've spoken to the commander on the ground there within the past few minutes, and he said they are now in control of this airport, and within the past few seconds just before you came to us, they were engaged in a firefight, presumably with the Ukrainian military, which says it is staging a counter-offensive to try and take back this airport. We can tell you now, I'm standing outside the perimeter of this Antonov air base, and it has not been taken back by the Ukrainian military. It is the Russian military. You can see them now moving back to a different position. It is the Ukrainian military who say they are now in control. This is about, I would say, about 20 miles from the centre of the Ukrainian capital. And so it just shows us now for the first time just how close Russian forces have got towards the centre of the Ukrainian capital. It's not just, I was speaking to officials earlier, Ukrainian officials, and they're saying that the plan isn't just to surround the Ukrainian capital, They fear now that the plan is to take the capital, to decapitate the leadership of Ukraine and to replace that leadership with a pro-Russian government. That's what Ukrainian officials are telling us now they think is the Russian plan. I can tell you, it is a very tense situation. We're expecting to see Ukrainian military force. We didn't even know, frankly, we didn't even know that, you know, the Russian forces were going to be here. We assumed this was the Ukrainian forces. So I went up to speak to them saying, hey, we come from Kiev, you know, but it only emerged during the conversation that they're all Russians and there are no Ukrainian military forces in sight, although I can hear them because they've been shooting ferociously in the course of the past few minutes. And so we're sort of in a defensive position behind this wall here. You know, we've got our car here with the crew here as well. You know, as the Russian airborne troops defend this position that they've taken on the outskirts of Kiev. Jim.
The footage you've just seen is believed to be Russian troops at Antonov airport. Reports say that Spetsnaz, Russia's elite special forces, had attempted to take the airport, but Ukrainian officials have since come out to say that that mission failed and Ukrainian forces have since recaptured the airport. The next incident that came out, I believe, happened earlier on today. And what happened was skirmishes had broke out on the streets of the capital in some suburbs, and initially there was 2 incidents that were reported as separate, but they were in fact one. The footage, which has since circulated on social media, which I won't be showing here because it's too explicit, shows gunshots going off after Russians are thought to have stolen Ukrainian army trucks. In the clips, those people who had stole the truck do end up dying. And then after this, in what's thought to have been a second incident, but again it was one, it shows Russians that have stolen a tank and they then drive over a civilian car. That person surprisingly survived, and here's the aftermath of that incident. Last but not least then on today's round of coverage is none other than the Ghost of Kyiv. The Ghost of Kyiv, who's that, you might be asking yourself? Well, he is a Ukrainian Air Force pilot dubbed the Ghost of Kyiv. It's thought that he's responsible for taking down 6 Russian jets in one day. He's since gone viral all over social media and has made the headlines around the world. Now, these claims can't be verified, but it is thought that this one pilot is responsible for taking down those 6.